It's time for TigerNet Talk with L. Swan.
You know, that's why Carolina's in Chapel Hill and USC's in California. And the university in this state always has been, always will be, Clemson. Print that, tweet that.
And I hope they come in undefeated. That's what I told you before the game. Our team believes. Our team believes. They got heart. We got greatness in us. They say we can't do it. What they say now?
Down go the champs. Auburn's 17-game win streak comes to an end.
Welcome into another edition of TigerNet Talk. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you once again, broadcasting live Wednesday nights, 9 p.m. on the front page of Vocal, on the front page of TigerNet.com, and on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. A little bit under the weather. If you follow the program, if you listen to the show on Sunday night, Clemson Sports Talk, or Clemson Hotline, I should say, brought to you by ClemsonSportsTalk.com, you probably know for a fact that the entire family was sick. This was like an infirmary. I mean, there were people sick everywhere. I felt like the Walking Dead. That might be the reference. And I was feeling great. And then Monday came down with it. Next thing you know, I'm recovering here on Wednesday, not at 100%. But you know what we do? We go, as Chris says in the chat room, clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. Great reference there to Friday Night Lights. Really good program if you really like high school football, Texas style. I never read the book. I read some of the book. I wasn't very much of a reader when I was younger. Had there been a Kindle, I probably would have read more just because I'm into technology. But we clearly have bridged the gap now for a lot of people, allowing them to read and being able to take it from place to place without having to carry a book. I love that it syncs to my phone or my iPad. It's just nice. It all works together. You want to work with us? Here's how you do it. Hashtag TN Talk on Twitter. I see we've got people already tweeting to us. You can also email us, clemson81@gmail.com. You can call us, 803-450-0086. Or better yet, if you're listening to the podcast edition of the show, just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com, send us a voicemail. We'll pump it in on next week's program. Just like that, you can be a part of this program, and you can also participate live in the chat room on Vocal. If you're watching the show right now and you see the Come On In button or the Join Now button, that's what you want to do. We've got Tommy, Chris. I see Clemson Tom. Go Tigers is in the chat room. Lots of great people here, and they're looking forward to this rivalry game against the South Carolina Gamecocks. And boy, do we have a jam-packed show. Not only are we giving away a Vostok cooler, we're going to give away 2 Edisto Outdoors shirts, 2 of our sponsors here on the program. We're giving away their stuff right here on the program, so stay with us because you want to be a part of that. And for those of you that listen on the podcast editions, we're not just giving these away to the people who are listening live. We are also giving them to you this week. So it's a special Rivalry Week giveaway as we allow everybody who listens to the program to take part. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. 7:15 ESPN, Under the Lights, Death Valley, the Kickin' Chicken. Or is it a chicken kickin'? I eat a lot of kickin' chicken sandwiches. If you haven't had that at a certain chicken restaurant that starts with Z, if they paid me, I'd say it. Go there. You can get that. I eat it all year. Chris, you've got the place in the chat room. You're correct. Zaxby's. If you go there, it's a fantastic sandwich. I eat it all year. Just partially because I'm a Clemson fan, and I think you're supposed to do that. But it is going to be a chicken kicking, hopefully, this Saturday, Death Valley. Get ready. Look, Clemson opened the season with an SEC school in Auburn. You couldn't predict where they were going to go. The experts said that they had a great defensive front, that Corey Lemonier was going to shred this Clemson offense, that we couldn't protect Taj Boyd, and that would be the key in that game. What happened? We protected. We got the job done. Auburn, however, has floundered, and because of that, the resume of Clemson has taken a big hit. Very little credit's been given to this Clemson team. The scariest thing of that whole the whole ball of wax, if you kind of round it all up and think about it, is that the closest game you played was that 26-19 game against an SEC defense. Every other game outside of FSU, Clemson has defeated each opponent by 14 points at least, and it hasn't been fun in a lot of these games. Quite frankly, there have been many that were boring by the half. Clemson has done an unbelievable job of putting their foot on the throats of the opponents and not letting them back into games. Now, we did have a shootout this past weekend against NC State. There's no questioning the fact that Mike Glennon is an excellent quarterback. We told you that on last week's program. We told you that that guy could throw the football. He reminds me a lot of Matt Ryan. He still does. He stands in the pocket. He'll take a hit. He delivered a number of great passes. We told you that NC State had shifty, speedy wide receivers. What did you find out? Shifty, speedy wide receivers. Another reason that you might be a little bit concerned coming into this South Carolina game. Because what do they thrive on? Ace Sanders and Mr. Bruce Ellington. Those guys are speedy and shifty wide receivers. And when you see how quick those guys are on the field and you compare them to what Clemson's cornerbacks have done and what the safeties have done, and really, in that game against NC State, let's say this, the safeties made some really, really bad plays. And I don't know if it was the scheme that Brent Venables had them in or if it was just lackluster play. But it was disappointing to see those guys out of position, playing the under when they really needed to be helping over top. It was very, very difficult to go back and watch that and see how easily NC State was able to exploit the Clemson secondary. The good news is, though, Connor Shaw a little bit hobbled. And when you look at last year's game where they had 420 yards of total offense to Clemson's 153, a terrible output by Clemson. South Carolina, 210 through the air, 210 on the ground. You can't forget numbers like that. But Shaw with a little bit of an injured foot there, injured ankle, that may be key in this ballgame because last year he took control of the game for the South Carolina Gamecocks and I think surprised a lot of Clemson people. I really believe that coming out of that game in Williams-Brice Stadium, a lot of Clemson fans were scratching their heads as to how good Connor Shaw played. Now, Clemson leads the overall series 65-40-14. And at Clemson, the Tigers hold a 16-9-1 victory. And the last time the South Carolina Gamecocks the first time the South Carolina Gamecocks won was a 12-6 game back in 1896. The last meeting, 34-13, last year in Columbia. And the last Clemson win was 31-14. In Clemson. That was a 34-13 game last season. Got my two scores there discombobulated. South Carolina, of course, with this 3-game winning streak. It's the 104th consecutive meeting in this series and the 110th meeting overall. That's the second longest active streak for consecutive game played in the country. Minnesota and Wisconsin stands at 106 straight. Now, the last time South Carolina led this series was November 11th, 1897. That was the day that the second game in this series was played. Clemson, of course, won it. The series record was then 1-1, and the Tigers went on to win the next 3 to take a 4-1 lead in the series and have never come close to relinquishing it from that point forward. South Carolina has beaten Clemson, as I mentioned, though, 3 consecutive years. When was the last time that happened? You probably know it. Everybody knows it. 1968 to 1970. The scariest thought is what happens if South Carolina wins this year. A 4-game winning streak by the Gamecocks. It's hard to fathom. The last time that happened was 1951 to 1954. And Clemson won only 1 game in the series from 1945 to 1954. So there was a period of domination for the Gamecocks from 1945 to 1954. But that 4-game losing streak is something that I don't think I thought I would ever see. Clemson, however, has won 6 out of the last 10 and 10 of the last 15. Woo! with all that history out of the way, I think we'll give away some freebies here from EdistoOutdoors.com. That's EdistoOutdoors.com. If you're not familiar with them, they are a sponsor here on our program. And you can easily get to their website by going to ClemsonSportsTalk.com, finding their logo, or just go to EdistoOutdoors.com if you're a very good speller. We're going to be giving away a River Light short sleeve t-shirt right here. Here's what you need to do. If you're on Twitter, you're going to need to tweet to us with a hashtag TNTalk. You always know that, TNTALK. Put the answer to the question and then the name of the shirt from their website in the River Light section under their shop that you would like. We're going to draw our winner after Saturday's game, so that gives our podcast listeners a chance to participate. EdistoOutdoors.com. The question is, how many total points were scored by Clemson and by South Carolina during Frank Howard's coaching career? All right, I'm going to give it to you one more time. The question is, how many total points were scored by Clemson and by South Carolina while Frank Howard was the head coach at Clemson? The way you win that Riverlight graphic tee from EdistoOutdoors.com is to put hashtag TNTalk in your answer, as well as the shirt that you would like from their website, EdistoOutdoors.com. Got to make you do a little work. The chat room is like, what? How do we take part? What do we do? Simple. The answer to the question, how many points were scored by Clemson and South Carolina while Frank Howard was the coach? Tweet it to us, hashtag TNTalk. Go to EdistoOutdoors.com. Make sure you put the shirt you want from their River Light graphic tees. If you have to, download the podcast edition to get all that again. This is the 11th time that Clemson has faced a top 25 South Carolina team in the third year in a row. And it's the second time in the history that both teams are in the game ranked in the top 15, going back to 1987, a night game in Williams-Brice Stadium. You might remember that one as, I believe, the Rodney game. The game where the Gamecocks were just giving it to Rodney Williams. 20-7 was the final score in that one. Brad Edwards, not the BCS guru, but Brad Edwards, I believe the athletic director at Newberry now, with an interception return for a touchdown in that game for the Gamecocks to seal it. As I want to say, Rodney Williams was looking to maybe Keith Jennings. Somebody may have to correct me on that. Threw an interception, returned for the touchdown, put the game on ice. It was 13-7 at the time of the pick. That return by Brad Edwards put it away. This series was at one time played all in Columbia, though. Many of you know that. Big Thursday was a huge game. But since that time, since 1960 when they switched it, Clemson is 16-9-1 at home and 16-10 in Columbia. So basically the exact same record for Clemson, whether they're playing in Death Valley or on the road at Williams-Brice, since 1960, which is kind of weird because you would think that Clemson would have a much better home record, but they seem to play just as well down in Williams-Brice Stadium, which is part of the reason that some of you would say we have to pay taxes on that land down there because we typically own it. Most of the time, Clemson has owned this series against Clemson, and I think Dabo Swinney's little rant last year kind of spoke to that and his feelings on it. If Clemson were to win this game this weekend, they would complete a second consecutive perfect home season. Their last home loss, you will remember it well, was against these very same South Carolina Gamecocks. That would be huge. You talk about turning Death Valley back into what it used to be. 2 straight seasons of going undefeated, that's big. We'll be right back. Stay with us here on TigerNet Talk.
Yeah, boy, we so tough. Can't you tell that we ballin'? And these boys can't hold us back. 81 championship, and best believe we going back. Clemson, we all in. One team with one dream.
We're on the quest for the best, and we can't let anything hold us back.
These boys can't hold us back. These boys can't hold us back.
Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444 or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/seasonsbythelake. I hope to see you on the terrace.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove. Are you a landowner who owns more than 10 acres that's interested in selling timber or pulpwood off your property? Cross Creek Timber is a full-service timber procurement company that buys standing saw timber and pulpwood. They're staffed with professional licensed foresters and fully insured with both workers' comp and general liability insurance. Let Cross Creek Timber develop the appropriate harvesting plan for your property and answer any questions regarding forest management. Call today, 864-517-3620. That's 864-517-3620 for your free woodland evaluation, or visit www.crosscreektimber.com.
I thought I'd grow up and I'd settle down. There was 10,000 girls up in Tiger Town, and it was heaven to me.
Well, we put the question in the chat room and the link to edistooutdoors.com for that Riverlight graphic tee. Again, the question for you, how many total points were scored by Clemson and South Carolina while Frank Howard was the coach? You can give me the combined total, or you can give me each team's individual total. And I think you'll find the totals quite peculiar, to say the least, once you get the calculations done or find that nugget of information out there on the World Wide Web. Hashtag TN Talk. Tweet to us. TWatson006 on Twitter wants to know, let's get to the trash talking. And that's one of the best, that is one of the best things about this series. The trash talking, the jokes that are going to be on the radio. The day after Thanksgiving, the way these people will begin ripping each other apart, like they haven't ripped each other apart for 365 days now. And for Clemson fans, you've had to live with this for over 1,000 days. And I've often made the point, and on Clemson Hotline this week, I made it sound like I had only been to Williams-Brice Stadium a couple of times. That's not what I meant when I said that. I've only been to Williams-Brice Stadium a couple of times when, after leaving the stadium, I felt like they wanted the games more than we did. And we've got a caller on the line with us. We're going to punch it right now out to the phone lines. Go ahead, caller. Welcome into TigerNet Talk.
Lawton, you got to get away from the stats. It's Coot week. I'm probably going to kick somebody walking down the street right now. I can't even be in front of the computer. We got to trash talk this thing. It's hate week, Lawton. Are you excited, dude?
I'm jacked up. This is Clemson Tom, folks, and you know how Clemson Tom is. He's liable to light somebody up in the parking lot if he's not careful.
Maybe I just toilet papered this dude that lives 3 blocks over who's a Gamecock fan who just moved in. I just toilet papered his car. I'm not going to say whether or not I kicked his cat or not, but something was there and I kicked it. I don't know what it was. I got a pit bull. I might stick it on it. Well, no, I can't wait. I got to go to the cardiologist on Friday. I'm not going to be able to sleep. I don't even know what I'm going to even do. I can't think. I sent my wife off to Thanksgiving early. I got a house to myself and watching Braveheart, Fight Club, Greene Street Hooligans, the program, Rocky 3. I don't know what I'm going to do. I've been eating fried chicken and cold beers all day. It's the biggest game of the year.
You're wide.
In like 5 years.
You're wide open, brother.
To say that I'm wide open, Lon, will be an understatement. If you could read my Twitter and my Facebook and be on the radio freaking all day hearing these coots talk about how they got the greatest team in the NFC East, you'd be mad too. I'm just ready to choke slam somebody. I might sneak in the locker room and shoot up, put on 33, and just decapitate Shaw. I don't know what I'm going to do.
You could probably
just pray for me. I'm just that jacked up right now.
You could probably play Spencer Shuey's role.
Just for like a down or two. I'm a little out of shape, and he's pretty much in shape. But I could probably play 1 or 2 downs. I just want to take out Shaw. I'm going to hit that dude so hard he's going to start growing hair. I mean, he's looking like you over there.
Hey now,
the lights glistening off the dome.
Hey now, you called this you called it glorious, I believe, the last time you were on the program.
Say that again?
You called it a glorious bald head.
I probably would. At least the widow's peak would go away. It wouldn't look like Eddie Munster or Fred Flintstone. That's what the coots have been telling me all week. And then there's a bounty on me too, by the way. How about that crazy stuff right there? I might just kick the crap out of myself and collect the money. The coots would probably pay me. They're that dumb.
What's the going rate?
Apparently like $1,000, which I could use an extra $1,000. So I don't know, maybe if you want to like go halvesies with me, we can like fake it, and I'll just put ketchup on my face or something. Make it look like you beat me up, and then we'll collect the dough and I don't know, invest it into your Christmas fund.
Now the chat room is concerned about the whereabouts of Carolina Clint. Have you done something to him?
I don't know. Okay, to clear it up, Carolina Clint is not me on Twitter. But I do the Carolina Clint videos. I don't know who does the Carolina Clint Twitter. But, yeah, we did a Carolina Clint thing today. Frank called UNC, found out they're the real Carolina. Frank called USC, found out they're the real USC. So the Gamecocks have no leg to stand on, and they're not going to have any leg to stand on after we beat the absolute crap out of them Friday night. We are going to run out of fireworks. Why? Because we should just shoot them off every time Boyd blinks, every time Chad Morris throws in a trick play. We should just light them and just aim them at Spurrier. Knock his daggum buzzer off, Lawton. Seriously. Send them back to Columbia. The city we should burn it down with our fireworks again. Just get all the Tigers out. You should go ahead and move. Move on to God's country. I mean, it's that crazy. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself today.
Well, I can tell you're ready to go.
I don't know. I feel like I should just like tackle Michael Vick. I could probably catch her right now. That's how jacked up I am. I'm going to go ahead and have the LSU show. Enough with the stats. Let's stat up how many points we're hang on. I'm looking forward to the PS3. I got to go. Stay awesome. I love you. Put on the hoodie. Bye.
Clemson Tom killed it again. He lives for this day. November 24th, 2012, the day the pitchfork returns. Go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Get your Pitchfork Returns t-shirt right there on our shop page. Tom says be done with the stats. You know what? And I agree. I want to get into the banter. That's what segment 3 is all about. Segment 1 and 2 is giving you the juice. Got to give the people the information so that they can stand by that water cooler on Monday after the victory. Say, hey, man, we've been dominating this thing a long, long time. We'll fast forward it a little bit. We'll pick up the pace here. We'll get into it a little bit. You want to talk about smack talk? How about Chris Lowe and these comments? When in the discussion about Dabo Swinney or Steve Spurrier, Chris Lowe, who writes for ESPN and the SEC, which conveniently are one and the same, I think. I'm pretty sure when ESPN cinched that deal for the BCS tournament, they really just meant the SEC championship game, basically is what they were saying. I don't know. Chris, here's what he says of Spurrier compared to Dabo Swinney. I realize for ACC fans that this may be a bit too much football talk with basketball season already underway, but comparing Spurrier to Swinney is akin to comparing Augusta National to your standard country club course. I'm going to let that soak in for some of you for a minute. And I don't know how many of you have been to Augusta National or seen the elegance on TV. But for Chris Lowe to compare our coach to Steve Spurrier in that regard, I'll tell you what, Chris. I know you worked up in Rock Hill for a while, and then you moved on up to Nashville, Tennessee, or Knoxville, or somewhere in Tennessee. And now you work for ESPN and do your writing with some other folks. I guess it's Edward Ashcroft or Ashhoff or whatever his name is. At least I know your name is Chris Lowe. But you, sir, to compare our coach, a man who has such quality things to say about these rivals that many people are ripping apart, a guy who clearly has come in and in his time at Clemson has done more than what Steve Spurrier has been able to do at South Carolina in a much greater amount of time. I mean, Dabo Swinney has played for 2 Atlantic Coast Conference championships, won one of them. I don't give this divisional tie credit. I really don't buy into that. I mean, you could give us a trophy, whatever. But he has taken this program, when he took over in 2008, and improved it on a yearly basis. And when he didn't have the pieces around him, was he so arrogant and stubborn that he didn't go out and get somebody to improve it? No. What did he do? He made the changes he needed to make. The critics came after him. They say he's a wide receiving coach. But you know what? Dabo Swinney played on a national championship team at Alabama. He knows how to win. You could call me a pumper, whatever you want to do, but I'm telling you this, all those people who were dumping on this guy for so long, you don't hear from them anymore. You know why? Because he's proven it every single season. Every single season. And I think there was a poll on TigerNet. We mentioned this the other week about who would you rather have, Dabo Swinney and not win a national championship, or Steve Spurrier if you could be guaranteed a national title in 3 years. 92% said they'd take Dabo and no national champions. Not a single championship over that number 1 class jerk, Steve Spurrier. Chris Lowe, you don't have a clue. And I don't know what your comparison was meant to say. If it's because Steve Spurrier won a national championship at Auburn, if that's what it is that makes him the Augusta Nationals, let me tell you what. If his time at Florida made him into the Augusta National, and you think that Dabo Swinney is a standard country club course, you don't know come here from Sikkim, boy. And I mean that. You don't have a clue. Cannot believe that. What a despicable thing to say about a class act like Dabo Swinney and a guy who comes across as such a jerk in Steve Spurrier. That's just the way it is. Speaking of a lack of respect, the Tigers are ranked 12th in the BCS standings, behind teams like LSU, Stanford, Texas A&M. You know, those 2-loss teams. And others. A couple of those, you know, like the South Carolina Gamecocks, we can take care of ourselves. When asked about it, Dabo Swinney said, I think it's ridiculous. I think we can play with anybody. I'd love to play Notre Dame. Lord have mercy. I'd love to play Notre Dame. I think this team, where we are right now, is at a point where we are good enough and we can line up and play with anybody. You've seen it over and over again this season. What has Clemson done but go out and handle business? And we can think about all the other years where Clemson clearly had dominant talent to the Atlantic Coast Conference and the teams in this league, and we didn't get the job done. But this year, we did in every game except for one against a number 4 ranked Florida State team, and we were punished heavily in the polls, unlike all these other teams. So you know what? What do? Now's your chance. You go out, you make a statement, you kick the Gamecocks to the curb, you stand up. And for every one of you listening to this program, and for every one of you that doesn't stand up at these games, get off of your rear end and make a little noise. And if you're a big IPTAY donor, guess what? Get off of your fat wallet and stand up and make a little noise, because I get tired of seeing so many people sitting down in that stadium. And when we've got this group coming in, you go down to Williams-Brice Stadium when the Carolina Gamecocks are kicking our teeth into the curb last year. Go down there when that's going on and tell me what their fans are doing. They're up. They're loud. What are you doing? Sitting down doing nothing. Get up. Make some noise in there this weekend. If you hadn't screamed one time this year, this is your chance. Make an impact at this game. It's time for the masses at Death Valley to make a difference. We're bringing it back 2 years in a row. A chance to rip the hearts out of the Gamecocks again, to send them on their way, to pick up an 11th win in the regular season for only the second time in our glorious history. Going back to 1981 in that national championship season. This is the time to step up and say, you know what? We might not play in the SEC, but when we played against the SEC, we defeated the SEC. And if we have to set records to do it, we're going to do it. Taj Boyd has been a stat monster this year, killing it. 8 touchdowns accounted for in that game against NC State. And what respect does he get in the polls, or in the media, I should say, the Heisman Trophy vote? Nothing. So go out there this weekend and make some noise and make the difference in this game, because our offense with a quiet environment can dominate their team if we put them in a hostile environment. We've got an opportunity here, folks. As a fan base, we have a real opportunity. And you know what? The guys in the chat room, you know, they're wide open right now. They're loving what we're talking about, but the fact of the matter is this. If you enjoyed these past 1,000 days, then sit down. Don't stand up and cheer. Don't make any noise when the defense is on the field. Continue to complain. Continue not to believe in this team. Or you can get up, make some noise, take it back to the old school, the old days, the ones I remember. Refrigerator Perry, Jeff Davis, the legends of the Valley. Wake up the ghost this weekend and break the hearts of the Gamecocks. We'll be back.
Thanks of those late fall, Lake Hartwell sunsets. I wanted to be just like Jeff Davis when I grew up, tackling Seminoles and Bulldogs, playing football in the mud. So everybody sing Tiger Rag at the top of your lungs, and we'll party like it's 1981.
Do you suffer from a chronic case of the woohoo during football games? Do your Saturdays sound something a bit like this? Well, TigerNet Talk is out to fix that. If we can band together, we can change this reoccurring issue. With a simple Go Tigers, Go Tigers Go, you can make a difference. Ban the woohoo. Do yourself a favor. And as always, Go Tigers. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you. G-Dog General Dentistry at Oak Grove is located on Highway 1 near the Barnyard Flea Market. Modern, relaxing dentistry with TVs and headphones in every room, nitrous and even oral sedation. Digital diagnostic x-rays for better quality and 85% less radiation exposure. And check out their new Clemson Patient Special. Mention that you heard about G-Dog here on the Clemson Sports Talk programs and receive an extra 5% off all services through football season. If you don't have a regular dentist, go see my dentist, Dr. Rick Jackson at G-Dog. That's General Dentistry at Oak Grove.
We scoop the boot, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote, 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
Hate the thought of shopping? All that hassle and can't find what you're looking for anyway? We understand. Retail stores make it difficult. Instead, try www.edistooutdoors.com. Edisto Outdoors features performance apparel and gear engineered for performance, comfort, and style. EdistoOutdoors.com. You'll enjoy the shopping and you'll enjoy the products. Great products from people who care.
Football season comes once a year. Cheers to the ACC. My den turns into a football field. I laugh, I cry, I dream. Quarterback throws the ball downfield, but I told him he should run. We take the ball to the 1-yard line, then the referee shoots the gun. On Saturday afternoon, I like to do my thing. Watch football on my TV screen.
Welcome back in to TigerNet Talk. I'm your host, Lawton Swan. Glad to be here with you once again. Hashtag TN Talk. Jake Wilson on Twitter says, I believe Dabo is a winner, but what happens when Morris leaves? Where do we go from there? That's a big question. That's one that I find myself thinking about an awful lot, to be honest with you, Jake. And it's one of those situations where you hope, even though you know that it's in Chad Morris's interest to move on and become a head coach, you hope for a couple of things to go on. One thing I think you could hope for is that Clemson were to somehow find a way in the next year or two to win a national championship. Is that going to be tough? Yeah, you hadn't done it since 1981. This year, you could argue, has been as close as you've been, losing that game at Florida State after being up 14. If you had won that game, you were ahead of Notre Dame at the time, you'd probably be number 1 or number 2 in the polls. I don't think there would be any way you wouldn't have been in the national championship game right now. You'd obviously have a big matchup against South Carolina. Then you'd have to play in the Atlantic Coast Conference championship game against a team like Georgia Tech, and then you'd have to win the bowl game. That's the part of this, I think, that would have to happen for Morris to stay. And that would be if Sweeney felt like, I've achieved everything I want to achieve. I'm young. I can step away. Maybe Nick Saban's job opens up at Alabama. If Sweeney had a national title, maybe they take Sweeney, and then you're kind of left with Morris. I don't see how there's any way for us to keep Morris in the fold as long as Dabo Sweeney's the head coach. And there's not going to be this, Dabo, would you take a job in the athletic department move? I see people in the chat room talking about it. Jonathan, Sweeney gave us Morris. We will be fine. The other side of that, and that was Jonathan's words, not mine. That's what he's saying. If Sweeney got us Morris, he can get us somebody else to kind of fill that role. The other thing I'll say, Jake, is that the other option could be, and the hopes, I think, for a lot of people are, that as great of a recruiter as Jeff Scott is, perhaps he's watching and learning some of this stuff. The thing about it, though, for me, is I don't think anybody can sit there and really take notes well enough to grasp the mental toughness that Chad Morris has. The mental toughness, what it takes to make some of the play calls that he makes. And the other thing that he's been able to do and have a lot of luxury with this year is because Clemson's been beating teams, we've been able to run some plays that maybe we wouldn't normally run in a tight ball game. We've been able to put guys into positions that maybe they normally wouldn't be in and give opportunities to some players there that otherwise may not have had chances. That's given us a lot of guys to get experience. We've had games where we've gotten to the second and third teamers. We've given plays that teams have to prepare for. It's been nice, though, to see those things happen. That is probably, though, if you ask a Clemson fan right now, what is their number one worry going into next year? I don't think it's the return of Taj Boyd, because we've heard that Taj wants to come back. I don't think it's the loss of Andre Ellington. I think even if Nuke Hopkins decides to go pro, I think the one thing people would say is they would be concerned with the loss of Chad Morris and what that could do to this offense all of a sudden. Because when you look at the numbers, number 4 in scoring, number 6 in total offense in the country, and right now obliterating the Clemson record all time for points scored in a season. It was John Heisman's first season back, I believe, in 1901, where that team averaged 37 points per game. If Clemson doesn't score another point this year, they will break that record. If they don't score a point in this game against South Carolina, I guess for the regular season, they will break that record already. They've been as good as gold in most games. The problem you have is the same problem that a lot of people are feeling right now, in that they haven't been tested maybe by a great defense or a defense that can attack them at the line of scrimmage the way South Carolina can. And I think when you start talking about the job that it's going to take up front for Clemson, the offensive line, and protecting against Jadeveon Clowney. And I've been the first one to say, I've said it plenty of times on here, and we could talk about just how great that young man is. But he has always been the one player on that team, and I've said it, and I will continue to say it, that I would take M1 on our team right now. I mean, he is an unbelievable, game-changing player. You don't find guys like him every day. Sammy Watkins the same on offense. You don't find those kids every year. But completely a dominating player on the defensive line as a freshman. Now it's a sophomore. Jadeveon Clowney changes games. And he was getting dominated physically in that Tennessee ball game. And that offensive tackle took one play off. And Jadeveon Clowney exploited it and basically won the game for the South Carolina Gamecocks. And Dabo, the excellent recruiter that he is, got in on him. Jadeveon Clowney, though, 17 tackles this year, 8.5 sacks. He's a finalist for every single defensive award you can get, the Bednarik, the Nagurski, the Lombardi Awards. But obviously, with that bone spur issue in his foot, after practice today, he said he's ready to go. He says he's 100%. But Tuesday, he was limping around. Now, I would imagine, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but I could assume that they're going to give him a nice little shot there in the toe before he comes out. Get that thing all nice and numb and send him out there. Brian Freeman tweeted to Jake on Twitter, to Jake McWilson, he'll probably hire another offensive coordinator. I certainly think that'll be the move. Just who is it? That's a big question that we have. The one thing I think, though, you will see Clemson do some early, though, run the ball at Jadeveon Clowney. That seems to be an effective tactic. Clemson's done a good job rushing the ball this season. In that game against South Carolina last year, though, they were limited. In the past 3 losses to the Carolina Gamecocks, Clemson has been held significantly below their average rushing totals per ball game. That's going to be a real key area for the Clemson Tigers. It is really, I think, establishing that running game. You've got to find a way to begin to make South Carolina creep up a little bit and then extend them down the field. And I want to say this, too, about Chad Morris in this offense real quick. One thing they've changed up a lot. Now, in the game against NC State, lots of those wide receiver screens out to the side. Obviously, Morris saw something that he felt comfortable with running that. But we have stretched the field a lot more, and Taj Boyd has been accurate on his downfield throws the entire season. And South Carolina's secondary has shown to be very vulnerable in the downfield game. And what do you do there? What do you do if you're Carolina? Do you run a cover 2, give help to both guys? I think you have to. I just don't see how you run anything else. I mean, if you start giving one-on-one options to Watkins and Hopkins, they'll eat you alive. And then you got to watch out for Martavis Bryant or Jerron Brown or Brandon Ford. And Brandon Ford, coincidentally, having one of the best years that a tight end's had at Clemson. And that's after Dwayne Allen really recreated the spot under Chad Morris in this offense. Chat room is wide open. If you're with us, come on into Vocal, VOKLE.com. Hashtag TN Talk on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter. We're at Clemson Sports, and the show is live on ClemsonSportsTalk.com. Sent a note over to the guys at TigerNet, over to B. Meist. I thought it was going to be on the front page today, but with it being the holiday season, we've always had this little issue around the holidays because obviously travel and such. Sometimes we don't get on the front page there this week. So that's why we're not there. If you went to TigerNet.com first to find us, but if you want to go in there and chat with people, #1 message board for Clemson Tiger fans. 13 million forum posts. 110,000 registered usernames. And there's old Chris Fowler on Twitter. Chris Fowler started a little uproar when he tweeted about how thankful he was or whatever to go out to see Notre Dame play Southern Cal, that 7-4 Southern Cal team, because it had national title implications. Well, Chris, I hope you get your wish. I hope you get your wish, and I hope that the national title implications that go on out there are that Notre Dame gets crushed by Southern Cal. And in some ways, I kind of hope that maybe a team who doesn't play for the SEC championship can somehow end up playing a team that did play for the SEC championship, so that somewhere in America the people will begin to rise up against ESPN. But that's just me. I know the SEC people say, yeah, we did it again. We did. Great. Good for you. Pat yourself on the back. Go fly your SEC flags. Go pick up your SEC national championship rings or whatever. This is going to be a big ball game, though. I mean, I think it's the biggest one we've ever had against the South Carolina Gamecocks. I know last year was big. I think this year's bigger. 1981, you could argue that ball game was right on par, because if Clemson lost, you're not going to play for the national championship. But I really think this is probably outside of that. That was a 29-13 win by your Tigers. But I got a feeling this has obviously got to be the biggest one. I mean, you're talking about 19 combined wins between these two teams, only 3 combined losses. We talked about that 1998 game when I was a junior, I believe my first junior year in college. I had 3 of those junior years, by the way. But My first junior year in college, Clemson came into that game 2-8. No. 2-8, and Carolina was 1-9, I think, maybe, and Clemson left 3-8, and Carolina left 1-10, something like that. You know what? We got to give away a Vostok cooler. I got to give away a Vostok cooler. That's VOSTOK coolers.com. Let me see if I can find my question here. I had it pulled up earlier, and all of a sudden, my question for my Vostok cooler is missing from my show notes. That's never a good thing. I do want to tell you, though, about their Thanksgiving special this weekend. 35% off when you order online from www.vostokcoolers.com. That's through the 25th of November while supplies last. Where in the world did my Vostok cooler question go? It's almost like it has been erased from existence for all of you. I guess that would be Back to the Future fans. Here's what I'm going to do. Because I have scoured the notes, I'm going to send it out to a break. We're going to come back. PS3 prediction. My prediction. We're going to give away a Vostok cooler. And we're going to give away another Edisto Outdoors tee. But this one is only going to be for you folks who are live with us. We'll be back with more TigerNet Talk right after this.
Didn't know it was gone the day she moved out. In my head, if I pointed it just right. We scoop the poop, dutycalls.com. When nobody else will do it, dutycalls.com. To make that dog poop go away, call or click for a free quote today.
When nature calls, we answer. To get a free quote for dog poop removal, go to dutycalls.com now.
DOODYCALLS. Dutycalls.com.
In the Midlands area, dial 1-800-DUTY-CALLS. They're number 1 and number 2. Enjoy the Clemson football season at Seasons by the Lake Restaurant. Tiger Tailgate on the Terrace at Seasons Restaurant will be held every Clemson football game day, rain or shine, home or away, from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for those day games and noon to midnight for the evening kickoffs. Enjoy a large screen TV, a Bloody Mary and mimosa bar, specialty drinks, and a great tailgate menu, all on the Seasons Terrace. For more information, call 656-7444. or visit their Facebook page, facebook.com/Seasons by the Lake. I hope to see you on the terrace. Take your business to the next level with innovative website design from Foodog Media. Foodog can handle all your web, graphic, and social media needs. Call them today, 843-864-9268. That's 843-864-9268. 9268. Mention this ad and receive 10% off of your website. Foodog is a Clemson-owned business. See their portfolio at www.foodogmedia.net. May the food be with you. Blake Austin of South Carolina Farm Bureau is an insurance agent you can count on to meet all your needs. Home, auto, health, life, you name it, Blake's got you covered, and he can save you on your yearly rates. Call him now for a free quote. 803-259-5008. That's 803-259-5008. Or just go to ClemsonSportsTalk.com and click on the Farm Bureau logo to be connected to Blake. Do like I do and work with the best agent around, and you can tweet that.
This is Clemson Tom, and you're listening to Clemson Sports Talk. So sit down and have you a cold one and listen to a true American.
I like driving down Clemson Boulevard.
It is wide open rivalry week, which oddly enough is pretty much a tongue twister when you try to say it. Rivalry week. You say it wrong, you sound like Elmer Fudd. You'll give a good little rivalry week to the people. Hashtag TN Talk. Thank you for coming in. We did find the Vostok cooler that we're going to give away. Well, we didn't find the cooler. We found the question. Because you get to go to VostokCoolers.com and pick it out. VOSTOK Coolers.com. Now, one thing. If you've won a Vostok cooler in the past 30 days, you are not eligible to win. And don't forget about that Thanksgiving special I told you about, 35% off. Here is the question. You could tweet this to us, hashtag TN Talk. This one is for anybody who listens to the show. We are going to select randomly one of the entries. So you need to tweet to us, hashtag TN Talk, and make sure you put a hashtag VOSTOK in there as well with your answer. That'll come right to us, and we will select the winner after we give our podcast listeners their first chance to win as well. Here is the question. Name the player who was a letterman for the South Carolina Gamecocks and went on to serve as team captain for the Clemson Tigers a few years later. All right, there's your question. There was a player who was a letterman for the South Carolina Gamecocks and then went on to serve as team captain for the Clemson Tigers just a few years later. That's hashtag TN Talk and hashtag Vostok. That's wide open. If you don't know the answer right now, you've got a chance to look it up. You can get the podcast edition. Take your time until after the game on Saturday. That's when all the entries will no longer be taken, and we'll give away that Vostok cooler. You're going to love it. And finally, the PS3 prediction. Sent to us by our main man, Sammy, not Watkins, O'Neal. The Clemson Tigers had 468 total yards in this game against the South Carolina Gamecocks. Taj Boyd goes 20 of 38 for 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, and no sacks. Andre Ellington carried the ball 16 times for 78 yards and 1 touchdown. Taj Boyd carried the ball 10 times for 26 yards. Let's see. DJ Howard carried the ball 7 times for 32 yards and 1 touchdown. And Roderick McDowell carried the ball 3 times for 22 yards. Receiving the ball, Jerron Brown, 3 receptions for 53 yards. Sammy, you can't touch it, Watkins, 8 catches, 161 yards, and a touchdown. Brandon Ford had 5 catches, 41 yards. Nuke Hopkins, his lowest production of the season, 3 catches for 39 yards, but he did get his hands on a touchdown. Kariko Wright led all tacklers with 8. And for the South Carolina Gamecocks, they had 342 total yards. Shaw had 32 attempts with 18 completions for 245 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He took 3 sacks, but the Gamecocks were unable to get to Taj Boyd. Taj Boyd stood strong, 0 sacks against Boyd. That was one of the biggest difference makers in this ball game. Also receiving for the Gamecocks, Lattimore had 5 catches for 49 yards and a touchdown, but he's out, so we have to give those to one of the other running backs. Obviously, he did play in this game, though, this simulation. Ace Sanders, 5 catches, 132 yards and a touchdown. Justice Cunningham had 4 catches for 34 yards. Clowney had 3 tackles in this game. Devin Taylor had 4 tackles in this game. And your South Carolina Gamecocks, for all you Gamecock fans listening, lost it 35-14. Our Clemson Tigers got it done in that one in the PS3 prediction. A 3-touchdown game. All right. Now to the part you tune in for, my prediction. But before we do that, what do we have to do? Give away one more thing from Edisto Outdoors. Another Riverlight short sleeve t-shirt, and this one is only for the people in the chat room. All right, so I'm taking the first person in the chat room who can give me this answer, And then you can tell me what shirt you want in an email, clemson81@gmail.com. This is wide open. Here we go. What was the date and score? So I want to know the date and score the last time Clemson snapped a 3-game losing streak to the South Carolina Gamecocks. The date and score. Jonathan in the chat room says, I don't know any answers to your questions. Ask me what Clemson's mascot is. That's great, Jonathan. That's great. You got to know the date and the score. Go Tigers. Go Tigers. What was the date and the score that Clemson snapped a 3-game Gamecock losing streak? We're going to leave that one open until after the show, so we're going to stay with us if you're watching this live. We got to end the recording, though. We're getting ready to get out of here. We've been rolling a little over an hour. Corey's getting close. Corey's got the year and the score. We need the date and the score. All right, here we go. My prediction. I've given you all the goods. I've given you all the ins and outs. This is how I think it's going to play out. You know, Taj Boyd's ability to keep plays alive this year has been huge. Rushing the ball, Boyd, much like Shaw did last year against Clemson, could be the big difference maker in this game. If South Carolina brings pressure up front with 4 guys trying to defend against Clemson's unbelievable wide receiving core and they get too far up the field, maybe Taj Boyd can exploit them some for the lanes that open up, much like we saw last year. That's the other thing. Clemson's had a year to grasp what South Carolina did to them, how they were able to exploit the Clemson linebackers and secondary, and even more so maybe even the defensive linemen getting them up the field and having Shaw do exactly what I hope we'll see Taj Boyd do in this game. Clemson, you know, isn't just a passing attack either. That's the thing I think that nationally we're perceived as. But much like Oregon, while we don't rush the ball as well as the Oregon Ducks do, we rushed the ball 58 times against NC State. Taj Boyd has improved to the point that he doesn't get the credit he deserves after being probably, you could argue, the best quarterback in America this season, from the beginning to right now. And I heard ESPN and also read on the web, you know, this eye candy being called. I believe it was the former coach at Buffalo on The Experts. He called this a conflict of assignment, what Clemson does, and giving all these looks and making people move around. Keeping your eyes looking in the backfield, trying to figure out what's going on. These big blowouts that we've had this year, they haven't been luck. They've been not just because we're the better team. Looks like we have a winner in the chat room, Matthew. November 27th, 1971. It was 17-7. Matthew, it looks like you got it because you gave me, hold on, Clemson Tom. I'm going to have to check. Let's see, your guys, let's see, 71, 17. Clemson Tom got it in. Looks like it might be Clemson Tom by just a nose, though. Clemson Tom just ahead of Matthew in the chat room, it looks like. I thought that Corey's saying I didn't, the date. I said the date. I thought date was, I'm going to have to do some research. You know what? I'm going to talk to the people at Edisto Outdoors, and we're going to see if we can't get all 3 of you guys an Edisto Outdoors shirt of your choice. That's all I can do. I can talk to the people. I can see. Jonathan says the date would include the day. Jonathan, all right, we'll see. You guys are great. I'll talk to him. We'll see what we can do. But as of right now, it looks like it's Clemson Tom. But we'll see. You guys can all email me, though, clemson81@gmail.com. These big blowouts this year, they haven't been by coincidence, people. We haven't been beating these teams by more than 2 touchdowns because we're just an okay team or we're just playing in the ACC. We're doing it because we're a really good football team. If we were just, quote, playing in the ACC, we might be just limping by some of these ball clubs like we have in the past. The difference in this team and the teams that Tommy Bowden coached and the teams that we saw coached by Tommy West or Ken Hatfield and many of those same Danny Ford teams. And while those teams were great, there were games that we were beaten by teams that we were better than. You think that Duke team coached by Steve Spurrier was better than that Clemson team that beat them for that Atlantic Coast Conference championship, or that got Duke to that Atlantic Coast Conference championship? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. 1989, I believe it was. That year, such a disappointment in so many ways. This team hasn't done that. They haven't played down to their level of competition. They have gone through everybody like a wrecking ball through a wall, and that's what makes them impressive to me. This 2012 team is better in all phases of the game, offensively and defensively. Have we had mistakes on the defensive side of the ball? Yes. Have we turned the ball over some like we did late in the season? Yes. But what have we done? We've protected ourselves against the adverse consequences of those turnovers. We have clearly the defense, when we needed them to step up, when we've needed them to stop teams, when the offense has put them in a bad situation, they've done a good job of holding serve. This team this year is electric. You compare them, 44.6 points per game to 35 points per game last year. Almost 70 yards more per game this season. Plays per game, up by about 6 plays. Third down conversions, great. Fourth down conversions, amazing. Red zone, not an issue. South Carolina got Taj Boyd 5 times last year. That will still be the big key for me. Can this Clemson offensive line protect Taj Boyd? I tell you what, and on the flip side of that, Grady Jarrett, Vic Beasley, Watson, Crawford, Goodman, they've got to make an impact, too, in this game and get after Connor Shaw. It is going to be big. The biggest game, I'm telling you, since 1981 for a Clemson fan. It has to be. And you can say every year's a big year in this game, but this year, a chance for you to get 11 wins, finish the season 11-1 before the bowl game, and maybe taste the sugar or head out to the fiesta. Who knows what will happen? I'll tell you this, though. It's your Clemson Tigers, and I don't think it's going to be close. I'm taking your Clemson Tigers. They'll call me crazy. I might have the wildest pick of them all, but I'm going to say Clemson gets it done. I don't think they stop us. I think we get past that 37-point mark again. I'm going to take Clemson to win this game 42. South Carolina Gamecocks 24. We will see you on Sunday, 9 p.m., Clemson Hotline. Until then, y'all take care now, and go Tigers!